What's up, Guardians? Profane here, thanks for checking out the video. Over the years, Destiny 2 players have accumulated a lot of exotic weapons. The purpose of exotics are to bring unique benefits to your performance, and for the most part, most of the current exotics have success in that. But there's some exotics that have become extremely outdated, and because they no longer mesh with our current sandbox, they desperately need some attention. In fact, there's almost 30 exotics that have no catalyst upgrades, and for a select few, like the Sturm, Sunshot, and Merciless, their catalyst provides very limited benefits. So today we're going to take a look at 28 exotics that are begging for Bungie to update them with brand new catalysts, and we'll be talking about what those potential catalysts could be. Before we get started, if you end up enjoying the video, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated and really help out when it comes to the algorithm. The Conditional Finality is the first exotic that is in need of a catalyst. This raid shotgun fires out both solar and stasis damage, causing enemies to shatter and ignite. It's a really solid performing weapon, but since there's only 2 rounds in the mag, it can be very slow, so it's going to really benefit from a catalyst that would reload ammo from reserves, which would help this become a much more effective weapon against persistent adds and big groups of enemies. The Wishender is in a similar position. It's a strong weapon against barrier champions and single high-value targets, which is what made it such a great option in Greymasters. But times have changed, and against groups of adds, the Wishender is pretty mid, but with a catalyst that provided kinetic tremors, this could hit several enemies at once, creating a ton of damage and wreaking havoc on champions. The Chaperone has been an iconic crucible weapon ever since Destiny, but this exotic shotgun continues to be a sub-raid option in PvE. But if we gave it a catalyst that returned ammo to the mag, then this would be able to dish out more sustained damage against enemies, as we'd be able to mitigate the amount of time that we have to reload. The Last Word has seen its fair shares of ups and downs, especially with the latest nerf to Radiant Dance machines. Giving this a catalyst is probably Bungie's worst nightmare. A perk that's too overpowered would just get nerfed, but it is the last word, so the pressure is there to not underperform, which is why something simple should suffice. So its catalyst should provide bonus body shot damage whenever fan fire is active, helping those players who struggle with hipfire precision still be able to take advantage of increased weapon damage. But let us know what catalyst you would give the last word down in the comments. The Bastion's another strong weapon, especially after its most recent update, which gave it the equivalent of Trench Barrel and 1-2 punch, so it really doesn't need a lot to push into greatness, which is why I think a catalyst that provided bonus melee energy on final blows would ultimately work out the best for this exotic. It's a mystery as to why the Khvostov didn't get its own catalyst. It's a relatively new exotic, and it even has a legendary counterpart, but one of the biggest advantages in running the legendary version is its inclusion of attrition orbs. So if we just stole that benefit and put it into an exotic catalyst, we'd be able to trigger Eyes Up Guardian much more often, giving us more of those high-powered ricochet rounds, which would drastically improve this weapon's damage output. All 3 of the special exotic glaives are missing a catalyst. They all recently received improvements to their overall performance, and the class-specific requirement was removed, but there's still improvements that could be made, which is why I think a catalyst that provides increased ammo reserves would be fair across all 3. But in addition to that, the wielder would gain improved character stats whenever using a matching elemental subclass, which is something that could play into the upcoming changes that armor and character stats will receive. The Collective Obligation is another raid exotic that never got a corresponding catalyst. It can be a powerful weapon to use whenever you're integrating a lot of void debuffs, but Graviton Lance and Lament consistently outperform it. So to increase this weapon's viability, a catalyst that provides overshields whenever defeating void debuffed enemies would give you a significant advantage in terms of survival, and it would make this a much stronger weapon to use at in-game level content. The Wavesplitter is the next exotic that we'll take a look at. This was one of the early generation trace rifles, and with all the modern advances that legendary trace rifles have received, the Wavesplitter is pretty garbage. But with a catalyst that gave this weapon detonator beam, along with something like subsistence, we'd be able to cash in on the Wavesplitter's stacking damage bonus, reducing how often that we would need to reload, and increasing how much damage that we could dish out. The Devil's Ruin has been all but eclipsed by the emergence of rocket sidearms and trace rifles. The best thing that it has going for it is that it stuns unstoppable champions, but if it had a catalyst that caused its high-powered beam to scorch enemies, it would synergize better with solar subclasses. There's times where the Tarrabah can be an absolute monster, and now that it can provide solar resistance, it can be a pretty strong option for added survival. Once you get its Ravenous Beast perk going, it's super fast, and it deals out a ton of damage. So what's going to really benefit this weapon? Well, how about a catalyst that grants this with intrinsic anti-barrier rounds? That way it would be more effective at in-game level content, no matter what the artifact rotation is. The Still Hunt came out of the gates very strong, which led to it getting nerfed. It's still a solid option when it comes to DPS, but in most any other scenario, a player's better off using the Icebreaker or Cloud Strike. But if this happened to have a catalyst that gave it the equivalent of Dragonfly, then we'd be able to create solar explosions whenever landing precision final blows, helping us take down rank and file enemies much more easily, which at the same time would help us build up the necessary charge to have our golden gun shots. The Lament has really fallen behind with the newer generation of swords. It's still a very powerful option that has built-in features to give you health back. It also pierces barrier champion shields. But to help this sword become more synergetic to solar subclasses, we could have a catalyst that gives its revved up heavy attacks the ability to trigger ignitions, giving us more firepower to take down barrier champs, high value targets, and large groups of enemies. The Eyes of Tomorrow is the next exotic that we'll take a look at. This got a few adjustments to its Adaptive Ordnance perk a few seasons back, and in the right situation, this could unleash a constant barrage of overpowered rockets. But you have to have enough enemies for this to work, which is why a catalyst that reduces the needed final blows to trigger Adaptive Ordnance down to 3 instead of 4 would be a really powerful upgrade for this rocket launcher, making it a more viable option at all levels of content. The Parasite's able to deal out an incredible amount of burst damage, and it even increases the damage of your other weapons. But once you've blown your load, the Parasite becomes useless, and one of the biggest reasons for that is that it has horrible reload speed, so a catalyst that provided something like Envious Arsenal could really be beneficial. This way we could strike enemies with the Parasite, rotate through our other weapons to build its damage bonus back up, and then swap back over to the Parasite to avoid having to reload. The Winterbite's another exotic that's seen its fair share of nerfs. To be fair, this was incredibly broken when it first came out, but it's become a pretty lackluster exotic over the past few seasons, which is why a catalyst with increased ammo reserves and Rhyme Stealer would be such a great option. We'd be able to improve our survivability with Frost Armor as we lay into enemies with all the slow and freeze, and with less restrictions on ammo economy, it would feel like we could actually incorporate this weapon into our gameplay. The Xenophage is another heavy exotic weapon that suffers from poor ammo economy. This machine gun hits like a Clydesdale, but it doesn't take long before you're out, so a catalyst that increases its ammo reserves is the first improvement that needs to be made. Beyond that, we can improve on our ability to lay down consistent damage by including a perk like Subsistence, so that final blows would refill the magazine from reserves. The Truth used to be one of the craziest weapons in Destiny. You could watch a rocket circle around an entire map just to find its target, but times have certainly changed. So to improve this exotic's performance, I think adding a catalyst that provides the Withering Gaze trait would really help. That way aiming down sights would cause this weapon's rockets to apply weakening, which you have to aim down sights anyways for this to lock onto enemies. And once you've hit that enemy with the first rocket, you've got 2 more ready to go. The Microcosm is another final shape exotic that's missing a catalyst. This weapon returns super energy back to you, and it deals bonus damage after using your super, so I feel that the best catalyst option for this weapon would be one that provides a trait like Rewind Rounds, so that you would be able to lay into enemies without having to reload nearly as often, allowing you to take greater advantage of this weapon's damage bonus. The 1000 Voices is yet another raid exotic that has no catalyst, and players have been waiting forever for this one. This fusion rifle can be an extremely powerful weapon, but it can also be your demise. The biggest drawback to this exotic is that its charge time is very, very long. It also has pretty poor ammo economy, so that's something that we would hopefully improve on with our catalyst. And I think reducing this weapon's charge time would be a great way to bring this weapon into the spotlight, whether that be on repeated hits or final blows. Even if we could only reduce that charge time by 30%, we'd still be able to deal an incredible amount of extra damage in a much shorter time frame, making this a much stronger weapon. The Deterministic Chaos heavy machine gun has been one of the biggest disappointments in terms of exotic weapons, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that its catalyst isn't out yet. According to the database, this is supposed to get 4 times the charm, which would create a night and day difference for this weapon. When you read this weapon's description, it seems like it would be a really great weapon, but when you start using it, you quickly realize that it suffers the most because of the constant reloading and slow reload speed, which is why we really need that catalyst to come out. Now that rounds out all the exotics that are completely missing a catalyst, but as I stated at the top of this video, we have a few exotics that have catalysts already, but they provide such little benefit. The Sturm is one of those exotics. It has an early generation catalyst, so it just doesn't do a lot for us. It improves the base performance of this weapon, but that's about it. But an updated catalyst that gave any sidearm a bonus in damage, well, that could really turn the tide for this exotic's relevance in our current sandbox, opening this weapon up to be cohesive with rocket sidearms, which could be a great thing for Titans using hazardous propulsion. We've also got the Jade Rabbit, which includes an outdated catalyst, and I think a suitable upgrade for this would be for this weapon to be able to mark targets whenever landing precision hits, and that once those targets are marked, this weapon will deal a small amount of bonus damage. But let us know down in the comments if you would change the Jade Rabbit. The Borealis received some upgrades a few seasons ago, but it continues to be an underperforming exotic. But if we gave it the ability to apply an elemental debuff based on what element we have chosen, like Jolt, Volatile, or Scorch, well, that would help this weapon synergize with Solar, Arc, Void, and Prismatic energies to a much higher degree, and it would help this weapon compete against sniper rifles like the Still Hunt, the Icebreaker, and Cloud Strike. The Merciless is in desperate need of an upgraded catalyst. The Particle Reconstruction Artifact mod has certainly helped this fusion rifle out, but if we had a catalyst that returned ammo back to the magazine without the use of that artifact mod, then we would have much better performance out of this weapon's increased rate of fire. I think another reason for this weapon falling behind is that it doesn't synergize with solar subclasses, so it'd be great to see this cause Scourge somehow. The Sunshot is the last exotic that we'll talk about. It's always a really solid performing weapon, but there's still opportunity for improvement, and since its catalyst only provides increased range and stability, I think giving this the added benefit of heal clip would really propel this exotic's performance, and it would make it a much more viable option at in-game level content. But what changes would you make to the Sunshot or any of these exotics? Let us know down in the comments below, and if anyone at Bungie is watching, please get these exotics some catalysts. Thank you as always for checking out the video. If you enjoyed and found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated and both really do help support the channel. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.